for summer camp scholarships for mainly for youth, but our scholarship fund can help adults who go to Christian retreats at Ross Point Camp. But we have some good summer camps for kids. Is it kindergarten or preschool through high school? You can go with a parent if you're in preschool, kindergarten.
Yeah, it's called My First Camp.
My First Camp.
And you can go to My First Camp 2 or 3 times.
I went more than once. Probably you did too.
I did too. It was great.
Yeah, and it's only a 24-hour camp. But then there's camps for different age groups all the way through high school. They need volunteers, by the way, too. But what we're focusing on today is a cookie fundraiser, and this is the order sheet. And so they sell amazing cookies at Ross Point. You've had them.
I have.
I've had them. I've had way too many, if that's possible.
I'm sure I have too.
We are taking orders for cookies now. Find a kid that's going to camp, or go to Palousechurch.org.
And there's a tab at the top if you want. It's the first
cookies.
one. It says cookies.
I think it's Palousechurch.org/cookies.
It
but
is,
look for the tab.
Yeah, it's right there.
And you can order your cookies. You can order them singly. You can order them by the half dozen.
That's right.
You cannot order 5.
That's right.
Because 5 is a ripoff. But
it is.
Anyway, you can order 1, 2, 3, or 4, or a half dozen.
There you have it.
Snickerdoodle,
your favorites. Yeah.
peanut butter, chocolate chip, or molasses. And the type is online too?
Yes.
Okay. And we're selling them at $2 per cookie. They're about yay big, like the size of Tim's face is what we've been saying. Or you said your head on
I know,
Sunday.
that's a gross exaggeration.
Your head.
Yeah, I got a big head, right?
No offense. Singles, $2 or half dozen.
You know
Here's
what? They're like those little plates, those paper plates that you sometimes get. I mean, they're big. They cover they're like 6 inches across.
Yeah.
They're big. It's a big cookie. It's well worth the $2.
It is. So $2 cookie, or $10 for a half dozen.
That's right.
So you kind of get a
That's
free
a
cookie.
deal. Free cookie. That's why you can't get 5.
And then you just tell us the type you want. So, and online, you can just pay online. In person, you can check, cash, put in an envelope, whatever. Just find somebody with an order form, either an adult or we have order forms around the church. And if you pay, we mark it off, and then we make sure your cookies are delivered. You need to order by April 15th.
That's right.
And cookies will get delivered at our awesome annual talent show that's coming back live and in person.
Live and in person.
On April 24th. So that's the other thing is if you have a talent, we're going to have this camp talent show and cookies afterwards, coffee and cocoa and whatever too. But we need talent.
We need talent.
Maybe we'll do.
We need talent.
You and I need a talent.
We need
Maybe
talent,
we'll do some jokes or something. But we need real talent. Are you going to come back as the Sister Act choir director?
I don't know. I haven't heard. I know that was mentioned. I haven't heard rumors yet if the sisters are making a return appearance.
Check our online YouTube account for that. Yeah.
If they are, I will happily do my part to direct.
Cool.
But we'll see.
So, Ross Point cookie fundraiser. Go for it. Should be fun. They're delightful. Buy them for somebody else if you don't eat cookies.
Yep.
We are looking into a gluten-free option. I don't know if we have the answer on that. I think our producer does, maybe, but he's not listening. So, anyway, should we just dive into the scripture?
I think so.
We have left?
Yeah.
So we've been in this series called Imperfect Lives with Perfect Peace.
Yes.
Yes. And some of our online listeners may not know this because we haven't had a podcast in a while.
Yep.
But Isaiah 26, 3 and 4 is a key verse for us. And it says, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. Trust in the Lord forever. For the Lord God is an everlasting rock." One of the translations I've been reading said, I think it's the New Living, says, "Trust in the Lord always." I like both of those. But that means in all situations, trust God. You can have God's perfect peace in whatever you're going through. So we've been talking about this and how do we have God's peace in lives that feel imperfect, messed up, difficult at times. But God still promises us his peace. So we've been defining peace the way we see it defined in the Bible, and that is not just situation by situation, but as this restored reality that we have with God through Jesus Christ, that we have a new whole relationship with God. We are at peace with God. We are forgiven. We are made new. This is our restored reality. And so that's the perfect peace we're offered. And we need to keep our minds focused on that and trust in God. And as we do, that can really affect our hearts, our minds, our daily experience. So that's a brief window into the series and maybe the sermon too. What have you been thinking about in this series? You got all kinds of notes there. I know you're preaching coming up on the April 10th too, right? So
yeah. Well, I've been thinking about peace too, right? And one of the things that stuck out to me when we were talking on Tuesday at Bible study was that word "stayed on you."
Whose mind is
stayed on you? And I was like, well, like, what is that? I was just curious, so I went and looked up on the internet, on the interwebs.
That's always a good place to go.
So, well, I have this place I go. It's called the Blue Letter Bible.
I like it. Yeah, and, blueletterbible.com. Is it .com or .org?
I think it's .com, and they have some insights into the language and stuff like that. That's kind of helpful. And so I went and looked, and it's Hebrew, of course, and the word is samach. I don't know if I did that quite right, but I tried. I had to write it out the way. It had a pronunciation guide and everything in there, so I tested it out. But to stay, I guess we all know what that means. You're like stationary, and I guess that's good to just understand it that way. But then, as I read it, it also carries kind of some meaning of leaning upon or resting in, and I just felt like that helped me have a little bit fuller understanding of what was trying to be communicated. I think this, not just that you're fixed. Yes, you're like fixed in place. You stay there. You don't move. Right. But also that you're kind of
connected to in a good way,
resting in and connected to God.
Yeah.
And I just really appreciated that in a new way, because I just had been thinking about it in terms of the English kind of translation, and not really thinking about, well, what does we tell kids, stay in your seat, or stay here, don't move, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
and we often want to get out of our seat.
Yeah.
I mean, get away from the rock, but the script, I like it. I think one translation of it is fixed.
Yeah.
Upon the rock, like your mind is fixed on the Lord. And Jesus talks about build your house upon the rock, build your life upon the rock.
Yeah.
And so one image we used in the sermon last week was right from Jesus, your foundation, like foundation of a house, needs to be on something, needs to be solid, not on shifting sand.
Yeah.
And so resting on, building upon this unshakable reality of God, that's where we get our peace. And the problem with peace in an imperfect world is there's a lot of other things to try to get your peace from that aren't as secure as this rock that is God, this eternal, immovable, strong reality that is God. And so we lean into something that eventually gives way,
Yeah.
And the good news about God is we can lean into, rest upon Him, and God will never give way. Yeah. So if we rest upon the perfect job or the perfect health or the perfect wife or whatever, all these things are temporary. Marriage is good, a job can be good, health is good, but if that's our rock, watch out, right?
Yeah.
It's not the same as God.
And all those things will, in earthly terms, come to an end.
Right. Yeah.
But God does not.
Right. So it's keep the first thing first, right? Our first love, our first strong relational reality, first place in our heart, however you want to say it, needs to be God.
Yeah.
And that is number one rule, if you want to put it that way, for having true peace. Cool.
Yeah.
So you looked up that word. What else you got for us?
Oh, well, another...
You got a joke?
I don't have a joke.
You're serious. I'm sorry. Shouldn't intervene.
Asher had a couple good ones last night, and I forgot to write them down.
I missed them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we're also looking at Colossians 3,
Colossians 3:15.
3:15,
Yeah.
and
That whole section is good, by the way. Yeah.
it says in I think the ESV, and let the peace of Christ rule in your
heart.
hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. And and let the peace of Christ rule. Like, what is, maybe we don't think too much about
Let it rule.
rulers in
Yeah.
our world, because
Yeah.
we threw off the ruler of our past.
Yeah.
In
King
terms
George
of,
III.
yeah, so we don't really live in that. But if you kind of go back to that mindset and think about, well, what does it mean to have someone or something rule you? It guides and directs and is in charge of your life. And it's like, well, let the peace of Christ be in charge of your life.
Right.
I was like,
You got to let the ruler rule.
you got to let the ruler rule.
Yeah.
That's like really cool.
Like, if the rock, to connect these two ideas in Isaiah and Colossians, if the rock is to be our strength and our foundation, and we want the benefits of God, the security of the strong reality of God, the rock, but then we wander away from it and get out of the.
And we
the
do that all the time.
Like, hey, God, I want your protection.
Yeah.
Or God, give me your blessing. And God's like, yeah, it's over here by staying near to
And
me.
you're like, no, I want this over here.
Yeah.
I want that.
That shiny thing apart from you.
Shiny thing,
Or I want to. A lot of how it is I want to act how I want to act, and I can't do that, and have God be in charge at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Because God, there's no negotiation with God. He's God, right?
Yeah.
So what we have to do as human beings is, if we want to be in charge of our own life, we got to step away from the shadow of the rock, of living in the security of the rock, or being founded upon the rock. We got to say, oh, but I want to dabble in this sin, or I want to do this relationship my way. And so we necessarily stray. And whether you see it in the story of Israel, but you see it time and time again in our own lives. And that's what we could call anti-peace, right? Not letting the peace of Christ rule.
Yeah, and sometimes when we get away from the rock, like you're saying, I'll try to keep with the metaphor here. We walk away from it, and then what's ruling our heart is not the peace of Christ, but it's either the things and the stuff or the whatever, but also sometimes fear, or anger, or worry, hatred. Sometimes those things take over in our heart. Shame. Lots of things can take over, and then we aren't really living in the peace that it's ours. It's ours if we just accept it,
right,
and stay close to the one who gives it to us.
Right.
And so I just really, I think that's a challenging bit of script. Like, it sounds all nice, let the peace of Christ rule in your heart, but it's like, no, you have to let the peace of Christ rule in your heart.
You have to surrender
And
to
you have
it.
to surrender to it. Yeah,
Live in it.
Surrender. Right there on the notes.
Surrender it to it, live in it. And this is good news, because not only, if you do that, will it help you deal with difficult things like anger, anxiety, fear, but it will, staying close to God, found upon God, give you the benefits of relationship with Him, peace and joy and hope. Doesn't mean it'll all be easy, but God will be your strength and your guide through whatever you go through, right? So we'll still be tempted to fear or have anxiety. We'll still feel pain or disappointment, but when we're founded upon the rock, we'll see everything in light of who God is and who God says we are.
Yeah.
We better wrap this podcast up. We have another one coming up, but we got to wrap this one up.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, Isaiah 26 and Colossians 3. Study those on your own. Those are going to be the basis for this upcoming sermon that I'm preaching this Sunday. What is Sunday? Is April 3rd already? Is that right?
Yes.
So tomorrow's April Fool's Day?
Yes.
Oh.
I'm not going to be here, so don't get any ideas.
Oh, okay. Well, you shouldn't have told me you're not going to be here. Tim's not in town, folks, on April Fool's Day.
Well, that's what you think.
You can't lie on not April Fool's Day. That's,
right.
I don't think.
I don't know.
And plus,
I
it's
don't know
really
what I'm doing.
transparent that you
Well, we have to have a little fun. so,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you all for listening and watching. This has been fun, and this has been Tim and Corey coming